Every new medicine is a bit of a gamble. On one side, you have this incredible promise to heal, maybe even to save a life. But on the other, there's always the risk of harm. And that tension sets up one of the most high-stakes questions in all of science.
So, how do we actually make that call? How do we weigh a life that could be saved against a life that might be harmed? You think it's just a numbers game, right? A simple calculation from a clinical trial. But, well, the truth is way more complex, and honestly, a lot more human than that.
And here's the absolute key to understanding all of this. Raw data is silent. A spreadsheet full of numbers doesn't tell you what to do. The real power is in the story you build from that data. It's that narrative that turns a bunch of numbers into a life-changing decision. And today we're going to break down exactly how that story gets built.
Okay, so let's jump into our first section, the regulator's dilemma. To really get this, we need to step into the shoes of the people who hold thousands, even millions of lives in their hands, the regulators. Just imagine this for a second. A mountain of paper lands on your desk. We're talking thousands of pages of dense, complex, sometimes even contradictory data. And your job? Your job is to make a single yes or no decision that's going to impact millions of people. The pressure is just suffocating. You're not just digging for facts in that pile. You're searching for the confidence to make the right call. So how do you cut through that mountain of data? Well, that brings us right to section 2, the solution. And that solution is a story. You don't just hand over the numbers. You tell a very specific, very structured story. It's called a benefit-risk evaluation. And look, the name itself kind of gives away the core idea. This is not just a summary of data. No way. It's a formal argument. It's designed to connect the dots from the raw evidence to what it actually means for a real patient, all the way to that final critical decision. Should this drug be approved? Think of this process like a 5-act play, and you can see the whole structure right here. Act 1, the introduction. What's the problem we're even trying to solve here? Act 2, the data summary. Okay, what did the trial actually find? Then Act 3, interpretation. So what? What does this mean for someone's life? Act 4, the comparison. Is this really any better than what we already have? And finally, Act 5, the conclusion, the final persuasive case for approval. It's basically a roadmap designed to lead the regulator to a clear, logical decision. All right, so let's move on to section 3, the core ingredients. If we're building this story, what goes into it? What makes it not just persuasive, but actually trustworthy? Well, it all really rests on these 3 pillars. First, the benefits have to be crystal clear. Second, the risks have to be laid out, all of them. And third, and this one is so important, you have to admit what you don't know. That's the uncertainty. Let's take a closer look at each one. When we're talking about benefits, we're not just talking about abstract statistics. It's about what really matters to a patient. Living longer, feeling better, having a better quality of life. For risks, total transparency is completely non-negotiable. That's the bedrock of trust. And then there's uncertainty. Now, this is the part that might seem a little counterintuitive. Admitting your study's limitations doesn't weaken your case. It actually strengthens it. It proves you're committed to scientific honesty. And now for section 4, the art of balance. This is really where everything comes together. This is the heart of the decision, weighing all that evidence. It's all about this balancing act. So on one side of the scale, you have the benefits. How severe is the disease we're treating? Are the outcomes we're seeing truly meaningful for a patient's life? Then on the other side of the scale, you've got the risks. Are there other, maybe safer treatments already out there? And are certain groups of patients more vulnerable to side effects? The final judgment call really depends on weighing all of these factors in context. You see, the goal isn't just to make 2 lists and see which one is longer. This quote right here just nails it. The job is to make a persuasive, evidence-based case for why one side of that scale outweighs the other for a specific group of people. That why is everything. The entire argument hinges on it. And that leads us to our final section, why honesty builds trust. Because ultimately, this whole process isn't just about getting to yes. It's about earning confidence. And in this world, transparency isn't just some nice-to-have virtue. It's a strategic necessity. And that's exactly why avoiding these common pitfalls is absolutely non-negotiable. Overstating benefits, trying to minimize or hide risks, or pretending you're certain about something when you're not, these are just credibility killers. A messy, confusing argument is almost as damaging. The most persuasive case is always going to be the one that is balanced, honest, and perfectly clear.
Here's a really critical reality check for all of this. No drug is perfect, and no study is ever flawless. Regulators know this. They aren't looking for perfection. What they're looking for is honesty. Confidence isn't built on a perfect record. It's built on transparent reasoning and trust. So at the end of the day, remember this. Numbers on a page are just numbers. It's the story, it's the meaning, it's the honest interpretation that transforms that data into a decision that can literally change millions of lives. Because in the end, data doesn't drive decisions. Interpretation does.